right, folks. So our next guest uses 20 years of clinical experience to explore the complexities of trauma beyond traditional PTSD. And in his recent book, he unpacks this sensitive but relevant topic. Joining us this morning, author of Trauma, Grief and Recovery. So, Trauma, Grief and Recovery. Trauma is more than PTSD. Dr. Stephen-Claude A. Hyatt. Good morning.
Good morning, Simone.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Vicariously.
Yeah, months
zooming
ago.
in months ago, but now you're here in person.
Yes.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about the catalyst for this book. You say it provides or recognizes the diverse and often misunderstood nature of trauma, emphasizing that it can manifest in various forms and contexts, impacting people in profound ways. That suggests that we don't really understand it.
Yeah, I think there isn't a proper understanding of what trauma is. And I decided to write this book for two reasons. I mean, one, there is, and this may seem like a logical paradox. On the one hand, we have a lot of persons, any little thing happen, they're like, oh, I'm so traumatized, all right? And then at the same time, trauma can be caused by little things.
Right.
Yeah. And so I thought it was important for persons to understand that there's more to trauma than post-traumatic stress disorder. And there are many persons out there who are dealing with trauma and the effects of trauma, and it's impacting on different areas of their lives, and they're not aware.
They have no idea.
They have no idea.
Because they think trauma is this big, oversized thing.
Absolutely.
When you say it can be little things, for example...
I mean, what we call microtraumas. So someone who, as a child, has been shouted at a lot, yeah? Or even a child growing up with a parent who is passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
Or sarcastic.
Overly critical.
Overly critical. And this child is thinking, I can't be myself, I need to be careful how I act, how I speak, etc. That can trigger trauma in someone over a period of time.
What's interesting to me is that you call those little things, they're really, in my frame of reference, not. Because when folks often realize that it has traumatized them, it's 20 years and 30 years later.
Absolutely.
Latently just sitting there, maybe manifesting in behaviors that they never knew were being literally triggered because these are their triggers.
No, absolutely. And that's why we talk about adverse childhood experiences, ACEs.
ACEs, yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of persons who I deal with now as patients and clients who are adults in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s, and they're now dealing with the effects of things that happened to them when they were 10, 11,
Having epiphanies
8.
now.
Absolutely.
But fixable.
Fixable. I
Yes.
mean, the important thing, and that's the second reason why I wrote the book, if there's awareness, people can take the steps that they need in order to rise above the challenges that they've been having. So in order for it to be fixed, as you said, you need to have a proper diagnosis, right?
So Doc, you know why I love this book so much? Is because it legitimizes this mental health. I mean, it's something that I talk about all the time.
Yes.
Physically, you can see things manifest. You can't see it mentally. Oftentimes, it's not legitimized. And even your book has stated the inherent link between what happens here and how it physiologically manifests. So we use these words a lot. I use them interchangeably. They may not necessarily be the same thing, but there's an element of each in each.
Absolutely.
And once you recognize it, this is where you advocate. Therapy can be a fantastic thing.
Absolutely, and that's why it's important to get rid of the stigma that's associated with it. It's almost like it's a dirty word to talk about therapy, and that's one of the reasons why at Calm International, my company, we make the distinction between patients and clients. Patients are persons who have diagnosable mental illnesses, while clients are persons who are dealing with interpersonal struggles and challenges. And people feel good to know that they have graduated to becoming a client and they're no longer a patient, because we don't have the stigma associated with physical illnesses. Nobody is ashamed to say, I have the flu, or ashamed to say I broke a limb. But there's this inherent shame that comes with these unseen scars that we carry. And unless we're willing to step forward and to say, hey, this is what's going on, I need to get help, we're going to be in that struggle for years and years. Can you imagine for the entire life of someone, they are not being their best selves and accomplishing what they need to accomplish simply because they're being weighed down by these experiences that they have had.
But it's also culturally contextual.
Yes.
Because in the same way you would find out that a family member has early onset diabetes and say, go doctor. You know, we are the same ones to say when I would realize our relative can't get out of bed or is exhibiting other signs of anti-socialism or behavior is changing. Just push past it,
Yes,
man. Just you can do it. Get up out of bed, man. You must
be strong.
Be strong.
I hate those words.
Be strong.
I hate those words. It's important that we learn how to support persons when they're grappling with grief and trauma. And that's why in the book I outlined some of the do's and don'ts. There are certain things that you just shouldn't say.
Like?
And I know they're coming from a good place. They're in a better place. Even if they're in a better place, they're not here, and I'm still dealing with the loss. And when you say things like that, you minimize the hurt and the pain that people carrying. My dad died when I was in China in 2011. And one of my Chinese friends, when they heard that my father died, and he said, how old is your dad? And I said he was 92.
He lived a good life. Yeah.
In Chinese culture, we say if they live that age, you have nothing to mourn. I was angry. I swore at him. I just won't say what I said here. But I was so angry because he was minimizing and delegitimizing my hurt and my pain and my connection to my father. And I think persons do that. I eventually forgave him because I recognized it was coming from a good place.
You have to think of the intention.
The intention was good.
It still hurts.
It still hurts.
It still hurts.
You know, so the do's and the don'ts are very important. But also recognizing that, you know, trauma comes from different experiences, like racism. You know, a lot of us are traumatized by racism.
Discrimination in the book?
Absolutely, and discrimination and a shame that comes along with it. And that's why during the George Floyd issue, I decided that I needed to step out of that shame. They should feel ashamed. Yeah, we need to speak up. Yeah. So racism.
And also, we are not in a position to validate or invalidate anybody else's source of trauma.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, why you feel so about that is just not a thing.
No.
You can't do that because everybody processes and receives
absolutely
experiences in different ways.
And I think it's important for us to respect the experience of the other.
Of course.
You know,
even
whether you understand it or not, there you go.
Empathy comes in.
That's where the empathy comes. And a lot of times we lack the empathy that we need to have, and we lack the grace. Again, I say it's coming oftentimes from a good place, but ignorance isn't always bliss. No. You know, and sometimes the ignorance that one person has creates challenges for another individual.
I want to ask you, we have to wrap, but you are a gazillion miles away. You're between Singapore and where?
And Malaysia.
And Malaysia. Even from where you are and having written this, do you see any changes happening in Jamaica, any shift occurring as far as the conversation around these topics and about mental health in general is concerned?
Yeah, I think there's a willingness globally to start talking about these things, especially the heels of the pandemic. People are willing to step forward. I'm surprised now when I'm here visiting how many persons are talking about going to therapy, that they're going to therapy. That wasn't a thing a few years ago. So there's this shift that is taking place, but I think there's more that we can do in order to destigmatize it and normalize it. And I'm hoping to do that with the book. With my book.
Well, thank you for writing it. Very important piece, Trauma, Grief and Recovery. Amazon?
It's on Amazon. It will be on Barnes & Noble. It will be on Lulu. I also have a personal website, drschhyatt.com. You can order it there as well.
All right. Thanks, Doc, for coming through.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you in person. Author of the book Trauma, Grief and Recovery. Trauma is more than just PTSD. Dr. Stephen-Claude Hyatt. We'll have more on Smile after the break. Soon come.